My husband started going out every weekend, saying he needed guy time. One night, I followed him and found him with another woman. I didn't argue. I just quietly moved out the next morning. A year later, he found me engaged to someone else. His text said, "It should have been me." I deleted it. When Daniel and I first got married, I honestly thought I had it all figured out. We weren't flashy or dramatic, just a normal couple with a cozy little apartment, quiet mornings, and a shared dream of building a future together. Our early years were good. Simple, even. We'd cook together on Sundays, binge our favorite shows, take late-night drives just because we could. I used to catch him looking at me across the couch, that soft, half smile that said, "I'm lucky." And for a long time, I believed we were both lucky. But good things don't usually fall apart all at once. They fade little by little, so quietly that you don't even notice until you're staring at someone you no longer recognize. For us, it started about 4 years into the marriage. Daniel had started working longer hours, or at least that's what he said. He'd come home late, exhausted, distracted. His phone was always in his hand, screen turned just slightly away. When I asked what was going on, he'd sigh and say, "Nothing, babe. Work's just been insane lately." I wanted to believe him. I did believe him for a while. We'd always trusted each other, or maybe I'd just trained myself to. Then came the weekends. At first, it was just one Saturday night. He said the guys from work were going out for drinks. "You don't mind, do you?" he asked, already halfway to the door. I told him no, of course not. Everyone needs time with their friends. But then it became every weekend. Friday, Saturday, sometimes both. He started calling it guy time. At first, he'd come home around midnight, smelling faintly of beer and cologne. But slowly, it got later. One night, he didn't come home until after 2 in the morning. Another night, not at all. When I asked him where he'd been, he said, "At Mark's." We crashed after poker night. Didn't want to drive home tired. Except Mark's wife posted photos on Facebook that same night, just her and her kids, no guys in sight. That's when the first real wave of doubt hit me. Still, I pushed it down. Told myself I was overthinking. That maybe Mark's wife just didn't mention the poker night. That maybe Daniel really did just fall asleep on a couch somewhere. But once you notice the cracks, you can't unsee them. His cologne changed, the kind of scent that felt too new, too deliberate. He'd dress better on weekends than he did for work. He bought a new shirt one Friday, buttoned it up, and asked, "You think this looks too nice for hanging with the guys?" I laughed a little, trying to be playful. "Maybe a bit. Since when do poker nights need dress shirts?" He smirked. "We like to look good when we're out." I remember standing there, watching him in the mirror, the way he adjusted his sleeves, not for me, but for someone else. That night, I sat on the couch long after he left. The TV played some mindless show, but I wasn't really watching. My mind kept replaying everything: the late nights, the defensiveness, the way he never looked me in the eye when he said he loved me. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I shouldn't go looking for problems. But deep down, my gut was screaming the truth. One night, I tried to talk to him calmly, gently. I told him I felt like something was changing between us, that we weren't connecting the way we used to. He laughed it off. "God, you always read too much into everything. I just need some space, that's all. Every guy needs a little breathing room." Breathing room. I repeated. "We live together, Daniel. I barely see you during the week as it is." He groaned, rubbing his forehead like I was being dramatic. "You're turning this into something it's not. I'm not cheating on you, okay? I just want to hang out with my friends without feeling guilty about it." I nodded, but something inside me cracked. Because when someone goes out of their way to say, "I'm not cheating on you," unprompted, it usually means they are. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at his side of the bed, empty and cold. The house was too quiet. Too still. I wanted to trust him. I wanted to be the kind of wife who didn't snoop, who didn't question. But trust isn't blind, it's built, brick by brick, through honesty. And he'd stopped laying those bricks a long time ago. The next weekend, when he said, "Going out with the guys," I smiled like everything was fine. But inside, something shifted. Because for the first time, I wasn't wondering if he was lying. I was wondering how long he'd been doing it. And a part of me knew sooner or later, I was going to find out. It took me weeks to finally do it, to follow him. Not because I was scared of being caught, but because I was scared of what I might find. Once you know the truth, you can't go back to pretending. And deep down, I still wanted to believe that Daniel was the man I'd married. But that hope, it was hanging by a thread. That Saturday started like the others. He showered, shaved, sprayed on his favorite cologne, not the one I'd bought him, but the new one I didn't recognize. He wore a white button-up and dark jeans, rolled up the sleeves just so. I watched from the hallway as he checked himself in the mirror, humming. He didn't even notice me standing there. "You look nice," I said quietly. He startled, then smiled. "Thanks, babe. The guys are hitting a new bar downtown. Don't wait up, yeah." And just like that, he was gone, the door closing behind him with that same casual ease that had become so normal it was almost insulting. I stood there in the silence for a long minute, my heart pounding in my chest. My fingers trembled as I grabbed my car keys. If I didn't do it now, I'd never have the courage again. I followed him from a distance. His car was easy to spot, an old Navy sedan with a dent on the bumper. He drove through the main road, past the bars and restaurants, further than I expected. The city lights faded into smaller streets, until he finally pulled into a quiet lot outside a small lounge I'd never seen before. There were no crowds, no loud music, just dim lights and the faint sound of jazz leaking through the door. It wasn't a place you'd come with the guys. I parked a few blocks away, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. When I stepped inside, the scent hit me first, perfume, floral, and sweet. Couples filled the small tables, their laughter blending with the low hum of the music. I scanned the room, and there he was. Daniel. Sitting at a corner table with a woman I'd never seen before. She was beautiful, effortlessly so. Long dark hair, red lipstick, the kind of woman who didn't need to try too hard. She leaned in close, her hand on his arm, laughing at something he said. He looked relaxed, happy, free. I couldn't breathe. He reached across the table and brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear, the same way he used to do with me. That was it. The confirmation I'd been avoiding for months. It wasn't guy time. It wasn't work. It wasn't stress. It was her. I don't even remember leaving the lounge. One minute, I was standing there watching them. The next, I was sitting in my car, staring blankly at the steering wheel, tears sliding silently down my face. There was no anger. Not yet. Just a kind of numbness that felt like my body was shutting down to protect me. Because what do you do when the person you trusted most becomes a stranger before your eyes? I didn't confront him that night. I didn't want the scene, the shouting, the lies, the apologies that would mean nothing. Instead, I drove home, packed a small bag, and slept on the couch. When he stumbled in around 2 a.m., I pretended to be asleep. He smelled faintly of perfume and alcohol. He leaned down, kissed my forehead like everything was fine, and whispered, "Love you, babe." I nearly laughed. The next morning, I woke up early. The sky was barely pink, the world still quiet. I packed my clothes, my documents, and the few things that were truly mine. No note. No confrontation. No tears. By the time he woke up, the apartment was empty. I turned off my phone, changed my number, and moved in with my cousin 2 towns over. And, just like that, I was gone. The first few weeks were brutal. Every morning, I woke up expecting to hear his voice, smell his coffee brewing. My chest ached constantly, like a dull wound that wouldn't close. He tried to call over and over. Then the messages came. "Where are you? Can we talk? Please, just tell me what's going on." I didn't answer. Then came the anger. "So you just leave? After everything we've been through? You're being ridiculous, you know that?" And finally, the guilt trips. "You're overreacting. It was just dinner. She's a coworker." I deleted every message without reading them twice. Because I didn't need his excuses. I didn't need to hear him lie again. I started a new job. Rented a small studio apartment. I began therapy. Slowly, I started rebuilding myself from the pieces he'd left behind. And somewhere between all that healing, between the long nights and small victories, I realized something important. I didn't miss him. I missed the version of him I thought existed. Months turned into a year. And just when I thought the past had finally stopped haunting me, life surprised me again. Because that's when I met Ethan. He was kind, patient, and nothing like Daniel. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep. He didn't make me question my worth. He listened. He cared. And for the first time in a long time, I let someone in. And a year after I walked out of that apartment, I found myself standing in front of a mirror, wearing a ring that symbolized everything Daniel had taken for granted. I was engaged again. It's strange how life can come full circle without you even realizing it. A year ago, I was packing a suitcase in silence, leaving behind a man who thought I'd never walk away. Now, I was standing in front of a mirror, slipping a delicate silver ring onto my finger, one that meant something. Ethan proposed on a quiet Sunday morning. No crowd, no flash, no theatrics. Just us in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, coffee brewing in the background. He looked at me like I was home, not an accessory, not a convenience, not a trophy. Just me. And when he asked, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. Because for once, the person in front of me saw my worth before I had to prove it. For months after, life was calm. Simple. I worked, I planned, I laughed again. Until one evening, when everything I'd buried came crawling back with a single text message. It was a Thursday night. I was wrapping up at work, humming to myself as I packed my laptop into my bag. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. At first, I ignored it. But then another came through. "You look happy." I frowned. My stomach tightened. That chill, the one I hadn't felt in a year, crept up my spine. Then another message. It should have been me. I froze. I didn't need to check twice. I knew that tone. That arrogance mixed with regret. It was Daniel. I didn't reply. But curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on his profile picture. He'd texted from a new number, but the photo said it all, his face slightly older, eyes tired, standing alone in a dimly lit room. There was no smile this time. Just the weight of someone who'd finally realized what he'd lost. And then the messages kept coming. I've been thinking about you a lot. I messed up, I know. You were the one and I didn't see it. Each one hit my screen like a ghost knocking on a door I'd already sealed shut. Part of me wanted to delete them immediately. But another part, the one that had once loved him, needed to see just how far he'd fallen from the pedestal he used to put himself on. After a few minutes, the phone buzzed again. I saw your engagement post. Congrats, I guess. I just thought, it should have been me. I stared at the message for a long time. And for a split second, I felt something, not love, not sadness, but closure. Because the truth was, it could have been him. If he'd valued me when he had the chance. If he'd chosen respect over ego. If he'd been man enough to treat me like a partner instead of a prop. But he didn't. So I opened my messages, typed exactly 6 words, and hit send. You should have thought of that. Then I deleted his number. For good this time. Later that night, Ethan and I sat on the couch, planning our wedding playlist. He noticed I seemed quieter than usual. You okay? He asked, gently squeezing my hand. I smiled. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About how lucky I am. He kissed my forehead and went back to scrolling through songs. I leaned against him, feeling a warmth I hadn't known in years. For once, I didn't have to question whether I was enough. I didn't have to wonder if the person next to me would laugh about me behind my back. Because Ethan wasn't a man who needed guy time to escape me. He was someone who chose me, every day, without conditions or excuses. And as I sat there, listening to the faint hum of music, I realized something. The best revenge isn't anger. It's peace. It's happiness. It's living the life someone else was too blind to build with you. And when I closed my eyes that night, I didn't think about Daniel anymore. I thought about tomorrow, about the future I almost didn't believe I deserved, and the love that finally reminded me I do. I thought that text would be the last I ever heard from Daniel. But men like him, the ones who mistake arrogance for charm and regret for love, never fade quietly. They always want the last word, the final scene where they get to rewrite history in their favor. It was 2 weeks before my wedding when he showed up. I was at a small cafe downtown, going over final details with my maid of honor, Julia. We were laughing about floral arrangements and cake samples when the air around me shifted, that strange awareness that someone was watching. I looked up, and there he was. Daniel. Standing by the door, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on me like he'd just seen a ghost. He looked different, older, thinner, like life hadn't been kind to him since I left. His once perfectly styled hair was messy, and the easy confidence that used to pour out of him had turned into something quieter, almost desperate. Julia noticed the way I froze. You okay? She whispered. Yeah, I said softly. Just, give me a second. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked outside. He followed. Hey, he said, his voice low. You look good. I crossed my arms. What are you doing here, Daniel? He hesitated, looking around before meeting my eyes again. I just wanted to see you. One last time. Before, he trailed off, gesturing vaguely, like the word wedding was too painful to say. I got your messages, I said flatly. You shouldn't have sent them. I know, he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. I had to. I can't stop thinking about you. About us. I screwed up, okay? I thought I needed space, I thought I needed fun, but none of them, ever came close to you. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. Daniel, do you even hear yourself? You lied. You cheated. You made me feel like I was some burden to escape. And now, just because your life fell apart, you want to crawl back like none of that happened. His expression twisted with guilt. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was stupid. I thought. That you could do better? I cut in. That's what you thought, right? That I was the boring one, the too serious one, the one who didn't understand guy time. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean it like that. I thought marriage would make me feel trapped. I stared at him, really looked at him, and suddenly saw him for what he truly was, a man so afraid of growing up that he mistook immaturity for freedom. You weren't trapped, Daniel, I said quietly. You were loved. You just didn't know what to do with it. He looked down at the pavement, his voice barely above a whisper. I miss you. There it was, the same line I used to melt for. The one that used to make me second-guess myself, make me stay longer than I should have. But now? It just sounded hollow. I took a step closer, meeting his eyes. You miss control. You miss having someone who made your life easier. But you don't miss me. You miss what I gave you. He blinked, taken aback. That's not fair. No, Daniel. What wasn't fair was me believing you'd change. What wasn't fair was me loving you enough for both of us while you spent your weekends lying to my face. He opened his mouth to speak, but I shook my head. This conversation's over. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my wrist, gently, almost pleading. Please. Just tell me one thing. Do you still think about me? I stared at his hand, then looked him dead in the eyes. Only when I remind myself what kind of woman I'll never be again. And with that, I walked away. That night, as I sat with Ethan watching the sunset from our balcony, I told him everything. Not because I needed reassurance, but because I wanted honesty between us, the kind I never had before. He listened silently, holding my hand the entire time. When I finished, he kissed my forehead and said, "Thank you for trusting me with that. No judgment. No jealousy. Just understanding." It was in that moment I realized how different love can be when it's healthy, when it's safe. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't angry or bitter. I was free. A few days later, Daniel tried texting one last time. "I hope he treats you better than I did." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because the truth was he already did. And when I finally walked down that aisle, hand in hand with the man who saw me for everything I was, I didn't think about Daniel. I didn't think about the pain or the betrayal. I thought about peace. About starting over. About how leaving that apartment was the hardest thing I'd ever done, and also the smartest. Because sometimes the happiest ending isn't revenge. It's simply walking away and never looking back.